Hi friends, Ms. Freivogel here. Today we are going to be learning about identifying the author's purpose or why an author wrote a text. There are three reasons for author's purpose or three reasons why an author writes a text. They can do it to inform us, to persuade us, or to entertain us. When an author is writing to perform, they're using facts and they're giving us information about a topic. When an author writes to persuade us, they are trying to get us to do something or to believe what they are saying. And when an author writes to entertain us, they're doing it to just give us a story that we will enjoy. I have some examples here for inform, persuade, and entertain. When an author's purpose is to inform, that is to give us information. So newspaper articles, recipes, or biographies, which are stories about a person's life, all give us information or explain something, and it's all factual. When an author is writing to persuade us, those are commercials, any advertisements you see in magazines, or anything that has their opinion in it. Persuading means you're trying to get someone to do something. And then when an author writes to entertain, think about fiction books, mystery books, comic books, anything that has a story in it that would make you happy. An author is writing to get you to enjoy something. So today we are going to practice author's purpose together. Please get out a blank piece of paper and go ahead and copy down this graphic organizer. You can pause the video if you need to get it all written down. And then when you're ready, just hit play and we'll continue. All right, now that you have your graphic organizer written, we see we have two clues from our readings that will lead to helping us figure out the author's purpose or why the author wrote it. We're going to do a text together, and then you're going to have some examples that we will go through as well. So our text today is called, What is an Art Museum? So our title gives a little bit of a hint for us, talking about an art museum. We're going to read to find out what an art museum is. Please follow along with your finger if you need to and read in your head as I read aloud. Art comes in all sizes and shapes. It might be pretty or it might be unusual. If you look for it, you can see art all around you. It might be a building, a picture on a poster, or a shape in the sand. A place where people display art so others can see it is called an art museum. Some museums take care of art that is very old. Old art helps us learn about the people who made it long, long ago. Some museums display new art. New art helps us see the world in different ways. It might make us ask questions, or it might make us laugh. Most big cities have art museums. Some are big and famous. Others are small and not well known. All of them take good care of their art, though, so that people can see it and learn about it. If we look down at our picture, that is someone at an art museum looking at some of the old paintings that the museum has on display. They are showing. Let's move up to our graphic organizer. We're going to reread some of our paragraphs to figure out if we can find any clues that will help us determine the author's purpose. I'm going to go ahead first. I'm going to reread paragraph number 2 for my facts. A place where people display art so that other people can see it is called an art museum. Some museums take care of art that is very old. Old art helps us learn about the people who made it long, long ago. This paragraph is talking about and explaining what an art museum is. The author is telling the audience what an art museum is. They're giving facts about it and they're explaining it so that you understand what it is. I'm going to use that as my clue for number 1. Go ahead and write it as I type it. We can say in paragraph 2, the author explains what an art museum is. And if you need to pause it so you have time to write it, go ahead and do that now. Our first clue, looking back after rereading paragraph number 2, the author is explaining what an art museum is. I'm going to go ahead and look at paragraph number 4 right here. I'm going to reread paragraph number 4 to see if I can find another clue for the author's purpose or why the author wrote this text. Most big cities have art museums. Some are big and famous. Others are small and not well known. All of them take good care of their art, though, so that people can see it and learn about it. So this paragraph is telling the audience some facts about art museums. Some of them are big, some of them are small, some of them are not well known, but they all take good care of their art so that people can learn about it. So for our second clue, I'm going to say in paragraph 4, the author describes types of art museums. Again, if you need to pause it, go ahead and do that so you can get that copy down for clue number 2. Make sure you're writing in complete sentences and make sure you have the proper capitalization and punctuation. So in both of our clues, the capital should be on the I for in, and we need periods at the end. So looking at our 2 clues, let's think about what our author's purpose would be. We know we have the purpose to inform or to tell us about something, the purpose to persuade or try to get us to do something, and the purpose to entertain or just tell us a good story. When I think about the text, if we think about inform, is the author telling us about an art museum? Yes, right? And we look at our clues, he's explaining, or they are explaining what an art museum is, and they are describing types of art museums. So it could be inform. Let's think about persuade. Is the author trying to get us to go to a museum? Well, they could, but they're not saying specifically in our reading that you should go to an art museum because they are the best. So I know it's not to persuade. What about entertain? Is the author just giving us a story about an art museum to be enjoyable? Well, it was enjoyable to read, but I don't think it was meant for us to laugh or have fun while reading. So I don't think it's to entertain. And looking at our clues, we have just explaining an art museum, describing an art museum. So our author's purpose for our reading is that the author is trying to inform us about art museums. They wrote this text to tell us all about art museums. So in our rectangle, let's write the author's purpose is to inform. You need to pause, go ahead and pause and make sure your whole graphic organizer is filled in with your 2 clues and your author's purpose. Now that we have that filled in, let's try a couple on our own. We will do 1 together, and then you're going to have 3 that you're going to do on your own. If you need to pause at any time to help with your reading, you can go ahead and do that. The first one we're going to look at together, I will read aloud again. Please follow along with your finger if you need to track it. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess named Charlotte. She lived in a beautiful castle with her father and mother. Charlotte was the most beautiful girl in the kingdom. What is the author's purpose? So if I go back and I think about our graphic organizer, we found some clues, right, when we read about our art museums. So let me see if there's any clues in this story. Once upon a time. That kind of sounds like a fairy tale, right? So I'm going to highlight once upon a time as one of my clues. There was a beautiful princess. Okay, I'll highlight that, named Charlotte. She lived in a beautiful castle with her father and mother. Charlotte was the most beautiful girl in the kingdom. To me, this sounds an awful lot like a fairy tale, doesn't it? Once upon a time, we have a princess, we have a castle, we have a kingdom. Kind of sounds like it's a Disney movie. So when we think about the author's purpose, are they informing us? Is this author informing us about princesses or castles? Not really, right? They're just telling us a story. Okay, so let's think about persuade. Are they persuading us that Charlotte is the most beautiful princess? No. Are they persuading us that she lives in a kingdom? Not really. Okay. So what about entertain? Is this just a good story that we like to read? I think so. Once Upon a Time gets me ready to read an entertaining story, and it's an enjoyable story. So the author's purpose down here, we can write, is to entertain. The author's purpose is to, entertain. Okay, let's go to the next one. I am going to read it aloud for you, and then you are going to go ahead and answer it by yourself. Frogs are amphibians. They can live on either land or water. A frog can lay thousands of eggs called frog spawn. What is the author's purpose? So go ahead and think about if there are any clues in our reading to tell us what the author's purpose could be. Remember, if the author is informing us, they are giving us facts about something and telling us about something. If the author is persuading us, they are trying to get us to do something. Or if they're entertaining us, they're trying to tell us a story. Go ahead and pause the video while you think about the author's purpose. And go ahead and write it down whenever you have the answer. All right, now that you have your answer written down, let's also look at the next question on the page that says, is this literary or an informational text? Right? A literary tells a story, and an informational text gives us facts. So if we are thinking about this story that you just looked at, I would say that's an informational text because it's giving us information and giving us facts, right? It says frogs are amphibians. It's a type of animal that they are. And it gives us facts about where they live and how they lay their eggs or their life cycle. Our next card, card number 3, you are also going to do on your own, and I'm going to read this one for you as well. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread, and she whipped them all soundly and put them in bed. What is the author's purpose? Go ahead and pause and figure out the author's purpose. Is it to inform or tell us about something with facts, to persuade us to do something, or is it to entertain us or just tell a good story? Once you have it figured out, you may write it down. All right, and we are going to do our last reading. And you are actually going to read this one independently yourself. So go ahead, pause the video, read through the story, and then you are going to figure out the author's purpose. All right, let's quickly go over these 3, so check your work and see if you're right. The first one you did talked about frogs. The author's purpose here is to inform us, okay? It's to explain or give us facts about something. It is informing us that frogs are amphibians, informing us where they live, and that they lay eggs. So the author's purpose for our first one is to inform. The second one that you did is to entertain. It's a funny story about an old woman who lived in a shoe. People don't really live in shoes, right? So we know that the author is entertaining us with this story. And the third one that you did independently, this one is persuading us. It's saying you should eat ice cream, right? It's telling us there's so many flavors, how you can eat it, and they're trying to get us to eat ice cream. All right, well, hopefully you got all those right. If you didn't, go ahead back through and try again and see if you can get the same answers I did and explain why you got them. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon.